There are many people in the world who like fortune-telling things. Especially we Chinese women are more superstitious in this concept. There are often some very stingy women. However, they do not hesitate to spend money on the fortune teller. It seems that everything is arranged by fate, and only the fortune teller knows the fate. There are countless people who do this kind of delusion. I remember that when I lived with the living Buddha in the Hu family in Nanjing, the elder Mrs. Hu was the most superstitious about fortune telling. From time to time, she would go to the Confucius Temple to tell fortunes for her daughter-in-law. At that time, there was a famous fortune teller in Confucius Temple named Iron Abacus. According to the legend of ordinary people, it is very efficacious for the Iron Abacus to see people's appearance and tell fortune. It is simply said that he is like a living deity. So at that time, some dignitaries, ladies and madam, all happily went to find the Iron Abacus to the fortune-telling. Mrs. Hu is naturally one of the major customers of Iron Abacus. Every time she comes back from fortune-telling, as usual, she describes to her family vividly about it with gusto. When it comes to good things, she smiles, as if gold ingots will fall from the sky tomorrow, and she will become a millionaire. When it comes to the bad, she sighs with resentment, as if the disaster is imminent. Once, Mrs. Hu's eldest grandson, Tadong Hu, was about to get engaged. Of course, she has to go to the Iron Abacus to figure out this important event to see if it was compatible with the woman's fate. She came back with boundless joy after fortune-telling. The Iron Abacus told her the fate arranged by their 8 characters, an arrangement of birth date and time, were naturally matched. They would be noble, and nothing can stop it. In the future, they will have 5 boys and 2 girls. It is really a 7 children reunion, wealth and longevity, and there are inexhaustible benefits. It turns out the rule of Iron Abacus, 5 yuan for fortune-telling the whole year, 10 yuan for fortune-telling based on the 8 characters. Because Mrs. Hu heard her granddaughter-in-law had a great fortune based on her 8 characters, she was happy for a while and took out another 10 yuan as a bonus for the Iron Abacus. When Mrs. Hu talked about fortune-telling, the living Buddha and I were listening quietly by the side. After Mrs. Hu finished speaking, the living Buddha laughed and said, "I can also tell fortunes." Everyone thought he was joking, but after a while, the living Buddha showed a serious expression and said, "I can really tell fortunes." The old lady who said with a smile, "Then, I will tell you my 8 characters, and may you calculate my old fate?" The living Buddha said as if joking, "I don't want to tell 1 or 2 people's fortune. I want to tell many people's fortune. It's better let me tell fortune for all the people in the world." Before waiting for his words finished, Mrs. Hu immediately asked, "What is it about? How do you calculate?" The living Buddha said, "Of course it makes sense, I naturally have my algorithm. Those fortune tellers, he thinks that people in the world have their own fortunes, and they are different, but I think they are the same. Not only is the fate of a human being the same as that of everyone, but the fates of birds and beasts, even fish and insects are also the same as those of humans. However, they are different in appearance." The old lady who shouted, "Living Buddha, the more you talk, the more magical it is. How is that possible?" The living Buddha said, "I take it seriously." The old lady who said with a smile, "Then, would you calculate the fate of the world?" The living Buddha nodded and said, "Easy. Easy. If you want me to do the math, I will." Then, he closed his eyes and stopped talking. At this time, everyone became anxious and shouted, "Living Buddha, please calculate." After a while, the living Buddha opened his eyes and said seriously, "When I do fortune telling, I do not arrange the 8 characters Jia, Yi, Bing, Ding, Wu, Ji, Jing, Zin. I calculate people's fate. There is only one word, this word is called karma. Ordinary people say destiny, Buddha said is karma. You all think that this person who can speak, dress and eat, and walk is a living being. Buddha said it is a retribution body. because of karma caused by past deeds, there is now this body that receives retribution. There are two kinds of karma, pure karma and defiled karma. Pure karma is namely good karma, and defiled karma is namely bad karma. The good karma done in the past will now be rewarded with good. The bad karma done in the past will now be rewarded with evil. If there were both good and bad karma in the past, both good and bad karma will be received now. Good and evil karma, like the shadow with the figure, will not fade away. Then the living Buddha said, all people in the world are equally human, but why do some enjoy happiness and others suffer? This is because everyone's karma is different. Even children born to the same mother have different circumstances. There is also differentiation between good and ugly looks, good and bad temperaments, and various behaviors. How can a beautiful couple have ugly children? Some parents are very ugly, but their children are very decent. This is the difference in the karma that each person created in the past, so the rewards are also different now. The living Buddha paused for a while and then said, this karma is neither extrinsic nor natural, it is all intrinsic, and it is all created by oneself. Mrs. Hu asked, do the eyes make karma? Do the hands make karma? Does the nose make karma? The living Buddha smiled and said, not at all. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body can't create karma. What can create karma is your own mind, and everything is created only by your mind. For example, you, Mrs. Hu, know how to paint. You used to like to paint landscapes, but now you like to paint Guanyin Pusa. It is all transformed by your heart. The hand of painting is only instructed by your heart. If you do not want to draw in your mind, your hands will not be able to draw anything, and the same is true for the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body. If the mind does not want to see anything, the eyes will not see the color or the shape of the outside scenery. If the mind does not want to hear anything, the ears will not hear the sound. If you do not want to smell anything in your mind, your nose will not be able to distinguish between odors and aromas. If there is no distinction in the mind, the body does not know whether it is cold or warm, heavy or thick. Everything is dominated by the mind. Everything is governed by the mind. When the living Buddha said this, he was afraid that he spoke too esoteric for Mrs. Hu to understand, so he changed the subject and said, secular people wish to be blessed with longevity, nobility, and many children and grandchildren but don't know all good fortune is cultivated in previous lives. It is not by chance, not known in advance, nor is it sought. If you did good deeds in your previous life, you will naturally enjoy longevity and good fortune in this life. If having karmic connection of having children in the past life, and you will naturally have children in this life, and he will naturally come. Even if you don't want him, he will come too. He wants to come, and you can't stop him. If you don't have karmic connection of having children, you can't acquire it no matter how you seek. If you want to know what kind of karma you did in your previous life, then you can comprehend it from what you have suffered in this life. If you ask about your future, it depends on what your heart is and what idea you have now. If you understand this reason, you can stop fortune telling. When the living Buddha said this, he had a long ha ha, it's so funny. Everyone asked, what are you laughing at? The living Buddha said, I laugh at the ignorant life and ignorant death of the world people. No one knows his fate. What kind of things did he do in his previous life? Whether it is a good thing or an evil thing? I laugh even more at those fortune tellers who don't even recognize their origins, karma and results. How can they know the fate of others, and dare to predict the good or bad fortune of others? Since no one understands the karma that everyone has done in the past, how can this life be calculated from? How to do the algorithm? How does it work? How to figure it out? The living Buddha said and clapped his hands and called, Miss Hu, fortune telling is a trick used by warlocks to cheat money. It's untrustworthy. Let me tell you. The only person who can really tell fortunes is Sakyamuni Buddha. Only then did he know the karma of life, death, sin, blessing, and retribution of human beings on earth. Those who believe in Buddhism should believe in the words of the Buddha, not fortune-telling, but only ask about your current state of mind. After listening to the words of the living Buddha, Mrs. Hu realized that the word destiny is unreliable, and she should believe in karma. At that time, she sighed and said, "Living Buddha, your words reminded me. If I had heard this advice earlier, I wouldn't have made a fool of myself and spent money on the fortune-telling." Everyone laughed. When the living Buddha talked about fate, his speech pointed out the truth of life taught in Buddhism. What he meant was to tell people not to believe in destiny, but to believe in karma, and to teach people not to do bad karma but to do good karma, and nationally will have good results. There is a Chinese proverb, "Only if you do good deeds, don't ask about your future." Exactly.